Words and wisdom. We've been using words for thousands and thousands of years, but did you know words can keep us trapped in our own mental prison? That's right. When we use words negatively, they become and have a big impact on not just how we see life, but also how we experience it. Words move energy. We are in a bundle of highly condensed energy right now. That's essentially what we're made of. But I want to break this down a little bit so that we can have a peek inside at the working parts. Are you ready? Hello, beautiful souls. I hope you are well, and I hope you're staying well. And it's a brand new day, and it's a brand new moment right now. Right now, right now. Here's a wave of love coming your way. Because let's face it, it's our truest essence, our truest form. Welcome to 2021 and the unfolding of a new age. We are literally stepping into a brand new understanding that will shape and change our world. We're beginning to swap unawareness for awareness, and with it, bringing in a new dimension of experience and understanding into existence on a global scale. So let's learn how to create the kind of world that we all want to live in. The power of words. We probably take this subject for granted and not really thinking about what we're creating through the use of our words. Words hold power over yours, mine, and everyone else's lives. Words move energy. Words can make us feel happy and sad. Words can make us feel ill or well. Words can open you up and words can close you down. This all comes down to the words that we think in our heads, that we speak out loud, and the words that leave a physical imprint, such as writing. Illnesses come because we're out of alignment atomically, not subatomically. You have everything you need to become anything you want. If words can cause emotion, then emotion must be energy expressing itself into chemical and ultimately physical form. So it must be true, words move energy. Oh, I like that. Words can open us up and they can close us down. If suggestion through words has an impact on how we interact with the world that we can see, it absolutely is possible that they have an effect on the world that we can't see. Either way, words play their part in creating outcomes. Words have been used from magic tricks to sacred rituals for many thousands of years. You've heard the saying that the pen is more mightier than the sword. Well, swords can cause a lot of pain and suffering, but one word alone can build a nation and they can destroy a nation. Otherwise, how was the order given to attack with the sword? The word can take you from united into divided. When you were at school, you were taught to put a group of letters together. And when you got certain letters together, at the end of the week, you'd be giving a certain test. What test were you given? Yes, a spelling test. And there's no secret as to why they called it a spelling test. I mean, it's not quite Hogwarts, but you are literally being taught to cast spells with words to move and manipulate energy. That's exactly what it's doing. When we're creating those words and putting those words together, they mean something and they can have an effect on us and others around us. So if words have the ability to move and manipulate energy, they must absolutely also interact with our physiology and also with our non-physiology as a result. So through the use of words, we can also create something called placebo and nocebo effects. You might not have heard of the nocebo before, but the placebo you've probably heard of. A doctor can do both. They cannot do it for you, but they actually have the power to enable you and empowerment to you, the ability to heal or kill yourself, literally. Doctors are in a very responsible position and no different to witch doctors. They're both working with words, ingredients and suggestion. they would say things like, take this and it will help. So in there they have the word, the spoken word of suggestion, but also they have the written word in the way of a prescription. And what do? You say, thank you very much, I'm going to go and get that sorted out right now. Now, there's plenty of double-blind experiments that have been done in the past to show, actually, it didn't matter if you were given a sugar pill or the real thing, that through that power of suggestion and through the word and your belief, because what it's doing is changing energy to you, the doctor's giving you something, you believe it's going to work, you're changing that energy within you to believe it, and it works. And these experiments have been done multiple times, and most of the time people get well by just taking a sugar pill. Here's another example. We must look at what the mass majority of us is made up of, and of course that's water. So then we start looking at the intelligence of water, and we start looking at people like Dr. Masaru Emoto. Now, Dr. Masaru Emoto, you may have heard of him. If not, please check him out. I'll leave a link below. His research on water and actually the intelligence of water was astounding, and it was a major breakthrough. And what they found is they did something called the rice experiment, and they had 3 bowls of rice. They had one bowl of rice which was labeled, they just put a label on it and it said love, and they had another bowl of rice that had a label saying I hate you, and another bowl of rice that was completely ignored. Those 3 bowls of rice were put into separate airtight containers and into separate cupboards and not touched. And so each day they would go in and they would send love and love, love to that bowl of rice. And they would send hate, I hate you, and horrible thoughts to that bowl of rice, and they would completely ignore the other bowl of rice. And something really interesting happened, because after the experiment had finished, they checked the rice and they found that the rice with the word love written on it didn't actually really decay at all, and it actually smelled quite sweet. It had quite a sweet smell to it. That's quite a sweet aroma. And the bowl of rice that was given the words hate and all these negative words didn't look too healthy at all. And the big surprise was the bowl of rice that was completely ignored actually was the worst out of all of them, because it had no recognition whatsoever. And it had a really horrible smell, and it turned a really horrible colour. So what it told them through that experiment alone was that we can actually change the chemical composition of rice just through word alone. And there was another one with ice crystals, and they would freeze ice to minus 30 degrees and they would defrost it. But before they did that, they would actually put an intention through their thought of what they wanted that thing to become. So let's say that one said about love, and they would put love to that water molecule, and it would take on that information. And as it defrosted, and it was very difficult to get these crystalline structures, but once you got them, you could take a picture of them, and they only last for a very short period of time before they obviously go their own way and become water. And what was interesting is the one with love had these beautiful crystalline features to it, and the one with hate had really disgusting, it just looked like a blob. It had no geometric structure to it at all. And these experiments were consistent. Every time they did it, they would get the same result. So it wasn't just a fluke that this piece of ice turned into this at this time. And so they took a sample from the Fujiwara Dam, which is one of the most polluted dams in Japan, and they put it under the microscope. It was this horrible gloopy thing, obviously, because it's not good water. And then a Buddhist monk gave it a blessing, and they redid the experiment again, and it turned into this beautiful crystalline geometric shape. So my point to this is, when we're looking at ourselves, we're made of at least 70% water. Rice is 90% water. And it seems to be the water that was creating the issue for the rice. What that shows is water is definitely a memory carrier. And so when we're thinking about our thoughts and our emotions and what we're saying to ourselves and others and to the world, What do you think we're programming our bodies with, which is 70% water? So if we're thinking negative thoughts, what do you think is happening to the water within your body? We have to become aware of that. So here are some words that you may not know the origins of. For example, coincidence. Coincidence is a mathematical term, and what it means is when two angles collide, they are in perfect alignment with one another. Coincidence, as many people have learned it to be, is something that just happens out of the blue, but actually, mathematically, it says it's perfectly aligned. There is no just out of the blue. There is no random thing that happens. Everything attracts itself. This is the law of attraction. So on that mathematical term, anything that coincides is in perfect alignment with each other, and coincides, coincidence, and coincidence are exactly the same words. We've just learnt to understand them in a different way because of the way that we've been taught. The same as the word media. Media is also the word for Medea, and Medea was the Greek goddess of illusion. So I will just leave that there. I mean, you can judge yourself of what you think of the media, but remember, they've never really had your backs. They've always, there's always been something in it for them to twist and turn and make a lot of money from. So I'll just leave that one with you. Investigate that. Also, like in a church or a spiritual place, you have something called the altar. And the altar means the altered state of consciousness. It alters your state. And so when the pastor or whoever is speaking to the congregation, he's talking to them and he's in an altered state because he's in a focused area holding space for all these people. So the altar is to alter the state of consciousness. It's where the energy in that place is most concentrated. The word entrance, we've learnt that as to be just a doorway that you walk through into another place, or maybe an arch, whatever it is. It's a way of going from one thing to the next. But actually, what it really means is to entrance. Entrance, entrance, we just put the words together, but it means to entrance. What happens is you go from the state of reality that you're in, say in this room, and then I walk through the door and I enter another state of reality that's completely different to this one. Has the same fundamental principles, universal laws that it must abide by, but it's different inside, you know? So entrance means entrance. And also the word nowhere. Now that's quite a negative word to say that you're nowhere, and actually it's quite an impossible word, because by universal law you can never be nowhere, you're always somewhere. So we have to break that nowhere down into two words, and it means now, here. That's all it means, is you're now here. You're not lost in nowhere. You're not in the middle of nowhere. You're always in the middle of somewhere. See how these words work and how we can misunderstand them, so we mispronounce them and the meaning to them, and actually probably not get the full power from them. The other one is careful. You know, people talk about being careful, and if I asked you about being careful, you would assume at that point there's potential danger here, there's potential risk, to be careful. But what if we turn that word around and we say to be full of care? What does that do? Does that make you feel different? It's better than saying careful. Careful means risk, and it means the world's dangerous. And if you're telling the world it's dangerous, your water is listening to you and it's changing. And one of the most powerful words that you would hear today is to understand. To understand something. What does that really mean? To understand means to stand under a particular belief. That you have a particular understand of a particular thing, and it has to go in that in order for it to make sense to you, and that's why you understand it, because it's coming from the root there saying this is what this is, and it explains it, and you say yes, I understand it, I stand under that belief. Here are some sayings that you might not be aware of. So the word daylight robbery. Well, the word daylight robbery came about when one of the kings of England decided to do a window tax for everyone who had 5 or more windows in their house. And so people decided, because they had a lot of windows, because they liked a lot of light coming in, And they thought, right, I'm not paying the extra tax, so I'm going to brick up my windows. And so when you walk around, especially in places like London and stuff, you'll see lots of houses that have had these windows bricked up, and no one really knows why. They think, is it because they wanted extra room? No, it's because of the window tax. Now they've exchanged that in the UK for something called bedroom tax. And if you fall under a particular criteria, you would be charged for the extra bedrooms you have in your home. And it was rumoured that they're actually going to do view tax as well. If you have a view outside your house, you'll be charged extra tax for the view. So yeah, it's all about making money, isn't it? Eh? The word rule of thumb. The word rule of thumb came around when, going back a while ago, men were allowed to beat their partners or their children with a stick, but the stick could be no wider than the width of their thumb. And this is why we use the term today, rule of thumb. But we've completely misunderstood the truth behind what the rule of thumb means. The word alarm. Alarm instantly takes us to a heightened state, doesn't it? Because it's the word we've learned, but we don't really know why it takes us to a state of alarm. It's just an alarm, but actually it's an Italian battle cry which means come to arms. Then we have nursery rhymes. Nursery rhymes such as Humpty Dumpty. Well, we've learnt Humpty Dumpty to be an egg that sat on a wall, but actually that's not true. Humpty Dumpty was believed to be a cannon that actually sat on top of a battle mount. And what happened one day is it got knocked over the edge and it fell to the floor. Now, you know, when it's cast iron, there's no way you're going to be able to put that thing back together again. And the name of the cannon was actually called Humpty Dumpty. Then you have Ring a Ring of Roses, which you know about that. That's all about the plague. And then you have Three Blind Mice, and that's just gruesome, cutting off tails with a carving knife, you know. And we're teaching our children these rhymes. Now, some of them are to remind us of history, but actually when we're putting this happy tune, children in particular, think that actually we're singing this happy rhyme, but there's lots of negative words that go in those rhymes. And again, what are we doing when we're feeding the body with that negativity? Another one was the Grand Old Duke of York. Now, I'm not sure if he had 10,000 men, but he definitely marched them to the top of the hill, and he definitely marched them down again. That was a true story, where he wanted to make sure his men were properly exercised, and so that's what he would do. He would march them up and down the hill. There's another word that's used extremely common today, and it's the word that I never put in my dictionary except for now, as I'm going to explain this to you, and it's the word hate. And I truly believe that no one really hates someone, but they simply confuse hate for the emotional fallout of extreme hurt. Oh, I like that. They simply confuse hate for the emotional fallout of extreme hurt. So if words can change our mental, emotional, and our physical health, what do you think is happening when we're focusing on negative words? And now, with all that amazing scientific evidence which now backs up this theory, we should be teaching this to our children. But the question is, why isn't it? Why isn't it being taught to our kids? And that's because the education system was never designed for the emotional aspect. It was designed for the Industrial Revolution to give people a basic education so that they could operate machinery and grow the industry that it became. And the reason that education is failing in so many areas today is because we're moving into an emotionally based aspect of consciousness, the age of Aquarius. How could you expect an old paradigm, an old understanding, an old way of being to carry through when it has no vibrational match to what we're moving into? It's completely impossible. That's like trying to get two sides of a magnet, two of the same side, to touch together. They're never going to work. They will always repel one another because they're not likened. Here's a channeled message that I got before I did my first video. And the message was very, very clear, and so I'd like to share it with you. It is not always possible But if you can stay at least 51% and higher in the field of positive words, you will begin to notice the difference of how you feel genuinely in a very short period of time. So when you are confronted today with people wearing masks and not wearing masks, it is important to remember your words have the ability to change the way they feel and ultimately the way that you feel. Attempting to stop someone having their own set of beliefs is a fruitless task. It is like them wanting you to change a deep-rooted belief you have. What would you say to them? All that happens is an experience of resistance for all parties involved. Reframing what you want to say in a more positive way with your words will actually lessen tension for you and for them. Remember, they may be scared through many reasons such as illness, conformity, and they may care deeply about humanity and not want to be a contributory factor if things go wrong. Either way, attacking people mentally, emotionally, or physically will just create more of the same energy, and you will know it and you will feel it. If you step into the allowing of others to do what they do and you do what you do, you will be able to go about your day feeling a little bit happier because you did not cause any more harm or struggle for anyone else and for yourself. For you were both given the gift of free will, and free will is a very individual thing to start with. It is only through the momentum of free will and others aligning with your belief that great changes occur, collectively, globally, galactically, and ultimately universally. When you realize the importance of this message, not only will you take a moment to think about it, you will realize that it's far easier to fire insults and personal beliefs to others because it is how you have grown up to experience life. You may find at the beginning it's quite difficult to choose something more positive to say, but it has not been and never will be your job to judge or condemn a person for their beliefs, just as it is not ours to judge yours. This is also how you show love in the way that love was, is, and always can only be truly displayed more fully to you. From you, to your brothers and sisters, and all living and inanimate things across your planet. Often love is confused for non-productive passion. Yes, non-productive passion because you care, but you care so much that you act upon impulse and fire non-productive words to another. You are stepping out of love and using passion as an excuse to justify your emotions, to turn into frustration, which then turn into anger and then into aggression. This doesn't mean that you should always act like an angelical being, because there is already another realm for that. But it does mean that you take a moment and take a breath before you speak, to take a breath right after the initial thought and to stay as present as you can throughout. You were given the gift of choice so that you can always step into awareness and ask yourself, so what do I choose right now? Choose the words that if you were able to access your heart, what would it say? If you do not understand, ask. If you do not agree with someone, speak out. But do not speak to people in a state of non-productive passion. Speak with people through unconditional compassion. If you have not yet arrived at the latter, pause and just say nothing at all until you have a clear mind to take the higher thought. And today is important more than any other time in history to begin practicing this, because you can change the future only from this point. Do or do not live your lives based on everyone else's disagreements and judgments of their experience. Do or do not allow thousands of years of disagreements to come between you now. Remember, times were different then, and times are very different now. Remember, you are not at war with one another. And if anyone ever wanted to create division and separation between people and nations, they would set the people upon themselves. Then they would sit back and watch the unfolding of that show. Do or do not be blinded by suggestion. Be true to yourself. Respect yourself enough to question everything. For how can you ever arrive at a fair, unbiased conclusion if you listen to only one source, one narrative, one feed of information, and ignore its counterpart? This is like saying you know exactly what your left eye is seeing when it is closed. In order for the left eye to see, it must be open. It is time for you to stop living in fear and to stand up as the beautiful soul that you are. The words you speak and even the thoughts that you think, let the words flow from you in a productive manner. You came here in this life to live in this time. You came here to show up and to be seen. You came here to be heard. You came here to make a difference to your life and every living thing you come into contact with. Now you must be courageous and allow yourself to choose the words that come from your mouth from this point forwards. You will find that the overwhelming majority of you are all ultimately searching for the same thing, a sense of peace. The only difference between you is that you are trying to get there from so many different roads, perspectives and standpoints, but other than that, you are all pretty much the same. A black, brown, white person, what separates them from one another? The words that you choose to define them by. You all have the power to choose your words full of care. So as you can see, words contain extreme power because they are the first manifestations of thoughts. When a word is spoken, it enters into and manifests into the reality, into the physical realm. And as physical and non-physical aspects align and combine, they become either productive or non-productive energy waves, which to the unsuspecting have an effect. Mainly because they were unaware of the power of words, and also they were not expecting a stone to be thrown at them. This is why you become upset, fearful, hurt, surprised, valued, and loving. Use words to empower you and everyone and everything you meet. Use them responsibly. Use them wisely. Use them caringly. Our message is simple. The words you think, speak, and write have the potential to change your life for a more positive unfolding of experience. As always, we send you love and guidance during your experience here, and as always, it is up to you to now choose. So this message is sharing how powerful words are and what we can do to live a more productive, fulfilling, and peaceful life. Here are some words that I absolutely love. I will look after me for you, if you will look after you for me. And I think it was Jim Rohn that said that. So that's the first video done, with many more to come. And if you enjoyed this, if you got a lot from it, if you took something from it, if it taught you something new, then please press the like button below. Please share it with your friends and family, and subscribe for more videos as well to come, because it is a time to start sharing, and maybe this is a channel that you can come to just to feel relaxed and get the pressure away from you, where you can learn, listen, and just relax. And I know through the sound of the voice, through the words, I know there's calming energy that comes your way as well. So please feel free also to follow me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Happy mind, happy you. And so all that's left for me to say now is, until our paths meet once more, keep shining brightly as the beautiful soul you are. Live with hope, live with faith in yourself, and live with the feeling of happiness always. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.